Marty here with Marty Music. We're going to break down Schism by the band Tool right now, and I'm going to teach it to you on this Gibson Adam Jones signature model. Oh, it's sick. Anyway, got a lot to do, so let's get to it. All right, it has these little opening chords here that we want to start with. So that's a 3rd fret on the G string with the open D string. That moves down a half step, and then you grab 3rd fret on the D string with your middle finger and you play those two. Then you move up to the 5th fret, D and G. And then I target my middle finger onto the 8th fret of the D and grab the 7th fret of the G. So all together you get. And of course the bass is playing some notes with it that adds to the context. The second one, everything's the same except the last chord. You just play the 7th fret on the D and G. All right, this is the main riff 1, which is a harmony to the bass line. Here it is on guitar. Very palm muty, you know, lots of palm texture and very syncopated. And so you're hitting the open D and then hammering on the 3 and the 5. So 0, 3, 5. Oh my goodness. So you do that quick hammer on, and then you get the 3rd fret G string right over to the open D. So after you hit 3 on the G to O on the D, you just move down to the 2nd fret on the G and hit G, open D. So all together. And so the only thing is there's an extra note added to the second half of the main riff. So you have, first you have, and then it starts right over. So you're adding the 5th fret on the G to the open D. All together. So on the very last one, when you get to that 5th fret, instead of that palm muting, you start to let that open D string ring out. And then you go into a blazing D power chord, which is just like the D major, but we're not playing the high E. You could mute it or just not play it. And we're also in drop D, so now we can hit that open D. So the verse comes in, the vocals are there, and there's some really great, heavy, ambient D power chord ringing out. So let me show you the little zone for that. Gonna put index finger on the 7th fret of the G string, which is a D note. So you have the open D string. Now if you get the A in there, that's fine too. It all works for D power chord, but you got. So you're just doing that root there. And then you add the 8th fret on the B string. And then the 10th fret B. It's still all within the context of the really syncopated bass line, vocals, and now guitar is adding that undertone, that undercurrent with the power chord. All right, so now we have a variation on the main riff. It's played with the exact same fingering, same technique, but just up here. Check it out. So we're playing the open A string now, and then hammering on the 10 and 12. And then going to the 10 of the D, and then playing the open A. Then moving down to 9, followed by the open A. So. And then moving it up to the 12th fret. So then it becomes basically what we call the chorus. You don't have to do anything new, but we're going to really let it open up and ring out. You know. Back to the muted again. All right, there's also a variation on riff 2. So, not very different than the main riff. So it starts the same, hammering 10 and 12 on the A string, 10 on the D string. Exact same, but then the second time, the rhythm's all the same, but the second time it's going to be 9th fret on the D to 7th fret on the D, and then up to 10th fret, just like this. All the rhythm's the same, so you put those two together. Just like that. All right, so later now we play this same riff, but just the final part of it. So in other words, it just keeps repeating. just keeps doing that portion of it until we finally get to a new section, which I'm going to call the bridge. So let's check that out. All right, so this little bridge, the easiest way to look at it is to just start with moving the notes on the D string. Starting on the 14th fret. So 14 up to 17, 14, 19, 12, 14, 10, 12, 12, 10, 12, starts over, 14, 17, 14, 19, 12, 14, 10, 12, 10, 12, bum, 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 bum. So when you finally get to this 12 right here, that's when it speeds up. But or not speeds up, it's when we only play one open A string, which I haven't showed you yet. So we're going to play two open A strings between the 14, 17, 14, 19, 12, 14, 10. And then once we get to that 12, it's only one open string. 1, 1, 1, starts over. So watch. Now it's not quite that overdriven. It's more quiet. And then there's also a delay effect, which really adds to this part. But you want to know the part the right way. And it is this, but without the delay. All right, a new pattern starts when it gets to the point of coming out of this bridge section. So check this out. So it just does that twice, 14 to 17 with the open A strings. And then so pattern starts over. All right, so it does two of those, then just one riff from the original lick number 2. Back to this. And then the big chords into kind of the final climax of the song. So that final pattern, just think of it as 2 of these. And then 2 of that before it starts over again on that. So, or with a, that's one pattern. And then 2 would be, All right, we got a really cool power chord section. But before that, so you've got the regular pattern, just one of them, into 8th fret A string, so it's an F power chord, da-da, right? Down to the 3rd fret A, up to the 10th fret, and then an A power chord. And that A power chord is basically one beat, and then the pattern starts over exactly like that again, but it feels like, you know, the drums are in a different spot in the groove. But if you think of it like this, 2 of those, and then you know, 1 into the thing again. This time, same chords, F, C, G, but now D. So, and it's going to do a little thing with the up a half step and back, but we're going to get to that. Just know we're now at the D power chord. So when it gets to that D power chord specifically, there's a really weird timing, and it's basically counted in 5, but it's going back and forth between the just a half step up from that D power chord. Then you need this part. And that's just power chord bass, but if you're right here on the 8th fret covering these strings, you're going to go, and you're just adding your ring finger to that D string, 10th fret off 10th fret. Then you do it on the 3rd fret, and then up to a power chord on the 10th fret, to the open drop to down D, and then we have a whole new, very complex riff. So let's check that out. So you've got the open power chord, then the open D. And then you grab that octave, which is the 5th fret A. And then here's where the weird timing comes in. The notes are easy. It's really about that feel. You're going to have to play along with the song. So here it is. So 7 on the low D, or low E tuned down. Back to the 5th on the A. Open D. And then 5, 7. So. So 5, 7, then open D again, then 3rd fret on that low tuned D, then 3rd fret on the A. Then you slide it up to the 10th fret, followed by the open D power chord again, and that phrase repeats. Into, which is another build-up, and so we're just chugging along with that palm muting, and we're playing these two low strings here, the dropped D and the A, 3rd fret, open, 2nd fret, and then up to that 5th fret. Like so. So there's going to be two, after you get to that 5th fret, there's 2 opens. You got to start getting some extra palm muting, chucks right along with it. Basically thinking of all muted chucking or the muted sound in between those chord stabs. And then we get to the final riff of the song. Starts with a palm muted open low D, and then a quick hammer on 0-3-5. Followed by the 5th fret on the A string. Followed by the open low D again. Then the 0-3-5 hammer on, and then the 6th fret A. Then that 0-3-5 hammer on, followed by the 3rd fret. So altogether, hope you guys enjoyed the lesson. Feel free to request stuff in the comments below, and while you're down there, I appreciate you liking the video and subscribing here to the Marty Music YouTube channel. Thanks again. Hope to see you later.